The Michigan Man Podcast, episode 127. Coming off an impressive performance against Purdue on the road, the Wolverines return to the Big House for homecoming. On today's show, we preview this week's clash with the struggling Fighting Illini.
Oh man, Ufer's been broadcasting for 27 years. I have never seen anything like this. They need 2 inches. Dennis Franklin, the quarterback, taking a long con from center. He hands off to Shuttlesworth 5, and it's down to the end zone. Touchdown! Touchdown, Dennis Franklin! Oh my God, Dennis Franklin fooled everybody. He fooled me. He fooled the entire Ohio State team. Kneeling is Larry Gustafson. Attempting will be Super Toe. Super Toe will kick the 30-yard field goal. It's kicked to send over end. It's a tied-up ball game. 10-10. Okay. Under center is Wangler at the 45. He goes back. He's looking for a receiver. He throws downfield to Carter. Look at those Wolverines. 95 Wolverines going to the end zone. Carter's got the pass. In the air, it's done. Buford is going out of his mind. I have never seen anything like this in all my 40 years of covering Michigan football.
This is the Michigan Man Podcast. On GBMW Go Blue, Michigan Wolverine. For Wolverine fans from coast to coast. Go Blue and welcome back. I'm your host, Mike Fitzpatrick. On The View from Section 17 this week, the Wolverines turned in an impressive performance in West Lafayette Saturday, coming away with a 44-13 win in their Big Ten road opener. To be sure, it wasn't perfect, but it was by far their best performance of the season. At Monday's presser, Coach Hoke said he worries about the production from his running backs, but he's not ready to push the panic button. Brady said Purdue took Fitz out of the offense, so it left the backside open for Denard, and he took full advantage of that. Moving forward, we still have to find a way to get Fitz and the other running backs going, or eventually Denard will wear down. But for at least this Saturday, Denard was once again all we needed. The defense continues to get better and better each week. The fact that we are using so many young players in the process also bodes well for the future. From what we've seen so far, there's not much defense being played in the Big Ten this year. It appears that Michigan and Michigan State could have the best 2 defenses in the conference, which could make next week very interesting and physical, but let's not get ahead of ourselves. First, we need to take care of business this Saturday against the visiting Fighting Illini, a team that is struggling with injuries and a lack of depth under first-year head coach Tim Beckman. At first glance, this looks like a lockdown win for the Wolverines, but those of us who've been around long enough know you can't approach any Big Ten opponent with that mindset. Illinois will come ready to play this Saturday. How good are they, or how demoralized they are after a tough start to the season, is something we'll get answers to on this homecoming Saturday. On today's Michigan Insider segment, our guest will be Michigan beat writer Andy Reid from the Wolverine, with his thoughts on the Purdue victory and what he thinks the Wolverines need to do to keep moving ahead in Week 6. Before we check in with Andy, we're going to find out what's up with this struggling Fighting Illini team. We'll get the inside take from the radio voice of the Fighting Illini, Brian Barnhart, who handles play-by-play for Illinois on the Illini Sports Network. That's next, here on the Michigan Man Podcast on GBMW Go Blue, Michigan Wolverine. Joining us on our visitor segment today is Brian Barnhart, who is the voice of the Fighting Illini on the Illini Sports Network. Brian, thanks for joining us.
Hey, no problem. Glad to be on.
Well, it's been a really tough start, as we all know, and you all know, for Coach Tim Beckman and the Illini this season. In Saturday's 31-14 loss to Wisconsin, though, they were very competitive through the first three quarters, weren't they?
Yeah, unfortunately, they played four quarters, and it was 10-7. It was 7-7 at half. The Illini offense, which has been just missing pretty much since the middle of last year, no matter who the coach is, whether it was Coach Zook or Coach Beckman, kind of continued to struggle to put points on the scoreboard, but the defense did a really nice job against Wisconsin and kept the team in the game. There were just a couple of key points in the fourth quarter. One was a bad punt. I think Illinois' punter kicked it 10 yards. That was a key opportunity there to pin Wisconsin deep in a close game, and Wisconsin went on to score pretty easily after that. So you're right, the score was 31-14, but the game was much, much closer than that. And that's the thing, I think, for Illinois fans, is they just feel like they left one on the table because, there's a shot. It's not quite the Wisconsin team that's been to the Rose Bowl the last 2 years. They were struggling themselves with their quarterback situation and their offensive line, complaints in Madison about that. And so the chance was there to maybe steal one on the road, and it just didn't happen. And key mistakes at bad times, and then when the adversity has struck this year, the Illini have kind of wilted, and it happened again on Saturday.
Well, Brian, it's Coach Tim Beckman's first year at the helm in Champaign, as we all know, and coaching transitions can be really trying in the first year. We know that here. I know the Illini faithful expected better things out of the gate, hoped for that. But should they be surprised that the team is struggling like this right now?
Well, they're a little surprised. I think a lot of people thought, and the last 2 years have not been great seasons, but they've been bowl, seasons where they've won bowl games. They won the Texas Bowl 2 years ago. They won in San Francisco at the Fight Hunger Bowl. They had, 7 wins each of the last 2 years. They had several guys back on defense from a defense that was ranked in the top 10 and 20 in several categories a year ago. Now, they do have a new defensive coordinator when Vic Koenig left and did not stay on and went to North Carolina. But, I think that's been the bigger shock is, the offense we knew might struggle just because they'd lost a big receiver to the NFL and A.J. Jenkins. He was the primary target last year, and they were looking to replace him with a Ryan Langford and with a Darius Malines. And Malines has been hurt. He finally played the other day against Wisconsin for the first time really this year in an extended role. The offensive line has been patchwork at best. And so the offense you figured might struggle. But then the defense, you thought, okay, well, if the offense can do just enough, the defense will keep us in games. And it just hasn't happened, whether it's the new scheme, whether it's injuries. We've had several guys hurt. Shupo Sani, our starting safety, has been out most of the year. Terry Hawthorne was dinged up pretty badly the other day, and he has not really been 100% all year. And they're missing Jonathan Brown at times, their star linebacker. The Houston Bates, another starter at linebacker, was out for 2 or 3 games. So they just haven't been able to get any kind of cohesion, and they've given up big plays and big scores. And that's, I think, what's got most Illinois fans a bit demoralized at this point is, you thought you could hang your hat on the defense. The offense might come around eventually, and right now the offense has continued to struggle to put points on the board, and the defense is giving up way too many points, and that's why they've lost 3 in a row, and really their only win before that was against an overmatched team from Division I AA, the old Division I AA. So they just have not played well in recent weeks. Although, as you mentioned, they did play better on Saturday, but just couldn't get it done.
As you mentioned, they have a lot of issues to deal with on the offensive side of the ball. It looks like Nathan Shieldhouse is, basically the entire offense right now. And that offensive line has really, really been racked by injuries. That probably is the biggest contributor to why this offense has just had no continuity so far this season, isn't it?
Yeah, they were in camp even, juggling guys around. I mean, Graham Posick, who's been the starting center the last 2 years, has been tried at guard and tackle and moved around. And Hugh Thornton's another veteran lineman that was injured again for a few games, and he's just got back in, during the course of the game last week at Wisconsin. So there's been no continuity. It's been very much patchwork. And if you watch tapes of our games, I mean, Nathan Shieldhouse was not even healthy. He missed a couple of games with an ankle injury he suffered in the season opener against Western Michigan. So he's not been at 100% until last week. I thought he ran and played about as well as, he has played, since the early part of last year, where he threw for a lot of yards, ran for a lot of yards. But if you watch this on tape, you'll see him scrambling for his life a lot. He just doesn't have a lot of time to set up and throw, and so that has been a big issue up front. It all starts in the trenches. And right now we're getting beat up front offensively on the offensive line. That's not the sole reason we're struggling, but it's one of them. And then the defensive line just has not been able to get pressure on the other team's quarterbacks. And we face some really high-powered offenses. The offense at Louisiana Tech, they're just a terrific offense. Most people don't know much about them, but they're really hard to stop. And then, Arizona State was a really good team that played really fast. And so it's been hard for the defense to get into any kind of rhythm, and we'll see how they react against Denard Robinson Saturday.
The defense did play well against Wisconsin Saturday, as we've mentioned, but what are the major issues on that side of the ball? Is it a lot of young players, injuries? What's impacted the way they've played so far this year?
Well, the last two games, for instance, they've started two freshman linebackers at two key spots. And Mason Monheim was the freshman of the week in the Big Ten from the week before. He's a terrific young player, but he's pretty green. I mean, he's pretty young. Mike Stavina is another freshman, just true freshman, that's been put out there because of injuries to Jonathan Brown, who was the leading tackler a year ago, and Bates. And I think part of it's just getting used to a new scheme. Vic Koenig was here for a couple of years, and a lot of the guys that grew up in this defense were used to his style and his approach and his schemes. And now Tim Banks, who's done a fine job before in previous stops, I don't know if they just haven't figured out the scheme, if they've not gotten comfortable with it yet or whatever. But so schematically, I think there's been a couple of issues. I think injuries have been a huge part of it. I mean, the secondary was basically down to almost using walk-on guys a couple of weeks ago before some of the guys got back, and it's just dangerously thin at some key spots. And the defensive line is good in the first four, the Fosters and Buchanans and Akeem Spence and Staples, but then you get a little beyond that, there's just not much depth there. So one thing Tim Beckman said when he came in was, he told me, he goes, I'm worried about our depth. And that has been an issue that has really haunted this team through the first 6 games.
Well, Brian, besides the physical toll, this kind of a start really can have a detrimental psychological effect on a young team, a team with so many injuries. Do you see this Illini team as one that's going to be able to regroup in the Big Ten season, or are there just too many issues to expect that this year?
Well, I thought they regrouped very well against Wisconsin. After just a really dismal showing against Penn State, very flat, just didn't play with a lot of emotion. They came out with fire, emotion. They had some of the key guys back, the Thorntons, the Posicks, on down the list that were back. Brown did play the other day. So I think you started to see the semblance of a team that you thought you'd have going into the fall camp. But, I think they can get it together. The problem is the next, this game with Michigan, obviously, is a tough one at the Big House, with Michigan playing so well last week. Got a trip to Ohio State on the horizon. Minnesota is obviously better this year than they've been in years past under Jerry Kill. Indiana looks to be improved. They almost beat Michigan State. So, you've got some games that are certainly winnable, but also, against some teams that are improving, Purdue, for instance. So I think that they've still got a chance to get it back together, but as you know in football, once this thing kind of snowballs on you mentally, it can go downhill in a hurry. And we saw that last year with the 6-0 start at the beginning and then 6 straight losses to end the regular season, and it just kind of spiraled out of control. And you hope for Coach Beckman's sake that he and his staff can somehow get the ship together and headed kind of the right direction before it's just the season just completely disappears.
Brian, what's the injury situation like for the team coming out of the Wisconsin game?
Well, Terry Hawthorne, we'll see how he feels during the course of the week. He was basically knocked out, he had a terrific hard hit. He was called for a penalty, which it really was not a penalty. I think they missed that one. I think they're very sensitive to the concussion issue, which is fine. But in this case, it was just a hard hit. He basically knocked himself out. Everything turned out negative. As it turned out, he was taken to a hospital in an ambulance from the field there in Madison on Saturday. And we'll see if he is able to come back. He's a big part of the defense. He's probably an NFL caliber corner. So we'll see that. Jonathan Brown continues to get better. Did play quite a bit in the game on Saturday and wound up leading the team in tackles, even though he didn't start. So, they're slowly getting guys back, but it's just been, the training room has been the busiest place this summer. So we'll see how they fare. But everybody else seems to be in fairly good shape.
Well, if you're Brady Hoke, you hope your team doesn't believe everything they hear or read about this Illinois team, because even though they are struggling, they are banged up, this team does have talent, and you can bet they're going to come into the big house ready to go Saturday, aren't they?
Well, sure. Anytime you get a chance to play, it sounds like a cliche, but a Big Ten game. I mean, one of the great venues, in the country, in the big house. You want to if you can't get fired up for that, what can you do? And again, I thought they played really well in a tough environment at Camp Randall. And if they can do that again, just add another 25,000 fans to it, and we'll see how they fare. But yes, I think that Illinois still has some potential there. But the thing right now they're going to probably fight the most is mental. How do they, when adversity strikes, when you had a 10-yard punt the other day, when one of your leaders on defense goes out with the injury and leaves in an ambulance, how do you respond? And that's something that they've got to tighten up, is the mental toughness as well.
Brian, I know the Illini faithful would say the answer to this next question is obvious. It's play better, but what does this team have to do Saturday to come into the big house and walk out with a W? Well,
they got to figure out, a way to, not let Denard Robinson just go wild, which he has done at times against Illinois. We had the 67-65 game 2 or 3 years ago, and he's put up some huge numbers. Somehow you got to put a fence around him and not just let him go wild. And I think, just the dangerous receivers that Michigan has. I think the thing that obviously has happened under Brady Hoke, which was not there when Rich Rodriguez was there, was just the improvement in defense. I mean, you can move the ball at will against Michigan when Coach Rodriguez was there, and now it seems like with the defense they've tightened it up quite a bit, doing a much better job in that category against an Alabama. But hey, everybody gets, Alabama's basically almost an NFL team, so I don't know what you can say about that, but. I just think, they've got to focus on themselves, and they know what they have to do to try to stop Michigan. But, the idea is, can you execute well enough in your own game plan to give yourself a chance? And they had, 9 turnovers in a couple of games in 2 of the losses, and they just can't do that either. That'll just kill them.
And in Big Ten action so far this season, Brian, it seems like we think we know what might happen going into the game, but it's been crazy so far, hasn't it?
Yeah, and I think what you're seeing is some of the, I wasn't surprised Indiana gave Michigan State a game. I mean, Indiana, I think, on offense especially, is going to get steadily better because Kevin Wilson's got a system and he runs it. And, Jerry Kill, we know Jerry Kill pretty well in this state because he was at Southern Illinois and at Northern Illinois, and, his teams just kind of quietly get better. And become really solid on both sides of the ball and don't make a lot of mistakes. So, and Purdue has gotten better, although they didn't show it much against Michigan last week. So, there's some of the teams in the lower tier of the Big Ten have gotten better. But I think for the Big Ten this year, the teams at the top, there's just no, other than maybe Ohio State, and they're not eligible to play for the Big Ten title. Penn State is a good team, not a great team. Michigan State obviously has kind of fallen here the last couple of weeks and struggled. So there's really no elite team that has a chance to compete at a national level. And so, while the top teams have been pulled down a little bit, the bottom team's a little better, and you mix that in the stew, and you might get an upset or two along the way that doesn't make any sense.
Our guest on today's visitor segment has been the radio voice of the Fighting Illini, Brian Barnhart. Brian, it's been a pleasure. Thanks for your time.
Hey, no problem. Thanks for having me on.
That's Brian Barnhart, the play-by-play voice of the Fighting Illini on the Illini Sports Network. Coming up next on Michigan Game Day, Andy Reid from the Wolverine. Right here on the Michigan Man podcast on GBMW Go Blue, Michigan Wolverine.
Joining us on Michigan Game Day this week is Andy Reid, who covers the Wolverines. Andy, great to have you back on the show.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Well, before we start talking about the big homecoming game this weekend with the Fighting Illini, Andy, let's just back up and take a quick look at that win Saturday in West Lafayette over the Boilermakers. Again, 44-13. Very impressive win on the road for Coach Brady Hoke and the Wolverines. The offense was all Denard, and it looks like at this point, Coach Borges has decided to just let Denard do what he does best and run that read option, doesn't it?
Yeah, I mean, he kind of took the shackles off of him running-wise a little bit in that game, which was nice. I don't know if that's going to be what we see from this offense for the rest of the season, because these coaches have taken it on a game-by-game basis. If you look at what Purdue's been able to do this year, there haven't been many running backs that have had a lot of success against them. So maybe it was just something they saw in that defense. But it'll be interesting to watch his carries and his yardage on the ground progress as the season goes on. Obviously, they didn't let him throw a whole bunch. He only completed 8 passes. And in some of these games, you saw what Ohio State did offensively against Nebraska this weekend. Some of these games, Michigan might have to be in a little bit more of a shootout. So you're going to have to see Denard air it out a little more than he did Saturday.
And there's still some concerns about Denard getting some help. Again, Fitz Toussaint just could not get into any kind of a rhythm Saturday, could he?
Yeah, 17 carries for 19 yards is not going to cut it. They got to figure that out. You saw Thomas Rawls get a little bit of a rhythm going at the end of the game. Maybe give him a few more touches if things get out of hand against Illinois this next weekend. So it's going to be interesting to see how that plays out, because it can't just be all Denard. You see what happens when defenses sell out against Denard, such as Notre Dame did. So they're going to have to be able to take some pressure off him with the run game.
Well, and it looked like the offensive line was getting some pretty good push. There were holes there. The analyst, and I can't think of his name, who was doing the game on BTN, said he had been watching quite a bit of film on Michigan heading into the game, and he said the one thing he noticed about Fitz is that he does a lot of gliding into the hole and a lot of east-west before he cuts up the field. Do you think it's more the offensive line right now, or is it Fitz just, for some reason, just not planting that foot and heading north as much as he should be?
I think it's a little bit of both. Obviously, the offensive line had some issues earlier in the year, but I think they're really starting to hit their stride, which is nice because they're getting into the meat of the schedule, especially if they want to win the Big Ten. So it's nice to see them make some corrections and start to gel more as a unit. Fitz, he's obviously a good running back. We saw what he did last year. He can do it, but I don't know if he is completely confident in himself right now. He does seem a little hesitant. He's not making all the right reads like he was when he was at his top form at the end of last year. So I think it's a little bit of both. Now that the offensive line's gelling more, maybe he'll have more confidence in them and in his own decision making, and we'll see it kind of correct itself. But there is definitely reasons to be concerned there.
Well, Andy, we thought the defense was making strides after the ND game. I mean, it was such a solid performance down in South Bend, but Saturday they took the run away from Purdue. They controlled the point of attack, and I thought pursuit to the ball was really good too. It looks like the defense is really starting to come together in every phase right now, doesn't it?
Yeah, I mean, it seemed doom and gloom after 2 weeks, but they've put together 3 really solid games since then. You mentioned rush defense. Massachusetts, Notre Dame, and Purdue have combined for 268 rushing yards. That's fewer than Air Force had in one game. So they're really starting to come into their own. What I've been impressed with is the defensive line is starting to jam things up a little more in the middle, and what that allows for is more pursuit from the linebackers, and you're seeing them get more kind of involved in the game. On Purdue's first offensive series, they had a 3rd and short, and Demmons came free, and he flowed right to the ball carrier, cut him down before he crossed where it was able to move the chains. So that kind of pressure and that kind of freedom for the linebackers is going to do a ton for this front seven. That's very good to see. And the secondary also had a really nice game So things are really starting to shape up for those guys, and it's going to be a lot of fun to see what they're able to do in these next couple of games.
Speaking of that secondary, I'm really surprised at how well Raymond Taylor has jumped in at one of the corners. He's playing very well right now.
He's my biggest pleasant surprise, I think, on this defense. Obviously, it was tough to lose Blake Countess, but to see what Raymond's been able to do, he's got terrific instincts. I think by the end of his career, he's going to be a fantastic cornerback. He's still learning the kind of intricacies of the position, though. He's starting to, with more experience, he's just starting to become even a more complete cornerback. Once he puts it all together, I think he's going to be great. But you saw, he doesn't always get his head turned around. He doesn't always use the right technique and things, but he's always around the ball, and that's the most important thing. So I think with him, it's just the sky's the limit. I'm really excited about that guy.
Well, all the way around, big win and a solid sign of progress on both offense and defense. 44-13 down in West Lafayette Saturday.
Yeah.
Let's look ahead to that Illinois game, homecoming on Saturday, the first of two big ones at the Big House. And, of course, the Illini roll into town, and they just appear to be struggling in every phase of the game under first-year coach Tim Beckman. What do you make of this Illinois squad, which really is not devoid of talent?
It's just not clicking for them right now. I've had the opportunity to watch a couple of their games, and they haven't figured it out on either side of the ball. Minus a game against Charleston Southern, I believe, an FCS team. They just have been blown out. Really, Arizona State did it. Penn State. I don't know. It's just I really thought with the talent, seeing what Beckman was able to do at Toledo in the last couple of years, that he, especially on offense, would be able to get something going. But it hasn't worked in Champaign yet so far.
Well, virtually all of the Illinois offense on Saturday, really all seasons, come from one guy. I mean, you talk about one-dimensional, Nathan Schillhouse, and he's not even 100% right now. So, other than him, do you see this offense being able to get anything going against an improving Michigan defense this Saturday?
With all the weapons that Purdue had on offense in various spots, to see Michigan shut that down, I really expect a very stout performance on Saturday. Michigan hasn't given up more than 13 points in three since the Air Force game. I don't expect them to give up more than that this weekend either.
Well, we just mentioned that Coach Tim Beckman is in his first year, did a great job at Toledo. It's a transition year, and we all know that the first year or two in any kind of a coaching transition is a bit difficult. But on offense, this team, as we've mentioned, does have some talent. I mean, Donovan Young and Josh Ferguson at running backs, Ryan Langford, who is an outstanding wideout. They have had injuries on the offensive line. You've had different players in and out each week, so the continuity issue, I'm sure, is there. It's really puzzling how ineffective this unit has been, though, isn't it?
Yeah, well, Schillhouse was injured for a little bit as well, so they've definitely had some issues there. But yeah, I know they lost a lot in Adrian Jenkins from a year ago and things like that. But I thought, especially with the way Wisconsin has looked, that they will be able to go in there and maybe contend for a spot in Indianapolis, but it just has not shaped up like that. They just have way too many question marks at this point.
And flipping it over to the Illini defense, they have been more than porous this season, leading up to the Wisconsin game on Saturday. I thought from what I saw, actually, they played pretty well for 3 quarters. Wisconsin just went to the races in the 4th quarter. But they've been allowing teams to do pretty much through the air and through the ground whatever they want. They can have a nightmare on Saturday trying to stop Denard, couldn't they?
Absolutely. Louisiana Tech, obviously they have a potent offense, but to give up 52 points to Louisiana Tech at home, that's disappointing to say the least. So
yeah.
I don't think Michigan's going to have too much trouble moving the ball either. It'll be nice against a defense that's still trying to kind of find itself. hopefully Michigan can also answer some of its questions, get Fitz going, and not use Denard as much as they did this last weekend, because it's a long season, and if they can avoid having to run him for 235 yards again, I think that'll be nice for him.
Well, you mentioned at the top of the interview, Andy, that you weren't sure what we saw Saturday against Purdue, Denard right, Denard left, Denard up the middle, is what we're going to see down the road. Mm-hmm. Do you think against this defense that's really just had an amazing struggle this year, you're going to see Coach Borges try to do some different things this week, maybe even get Thomas Rawls more action?
It's an interesting question, because if you remember last year, the Minnesota game was when Michigan introduced that deuce package, and they had Vincent Smith throw a halfback pass for the first time and different things like that. They used an opportunity against a struggling team to kind of introduce a few wrinkles, get them some game time, and have teams that down the stretch have to prepare for those things. So I think it's definitely within the realm of possibility that you see some different things going on. It wouldn't be so bad if the score gets pretty lopsided to get guys like Thomas Rawls and Russell Bellamy some playing time. Bellamy's a backup quarterback, and he's still yet to complete a pass in his career. So he's got to get some quality time out there too.
Well, Andy, I think we're all beginning to realize, or at least think, that the defense, especially a lot of these young players getting action, is really starting to come together nicely, as we mentioned at the top of the show too. With Illinois being so one-dimensional, with Nathan Schillhouse, at least to this point, this could be another big game and a confidence builder for the Wolverines moving forward, couldn't it?
Absolutely. The last week they got 2 more interceptions. They got a fumble recovery, 2 sacks, and these are areas where they've been woefully lacking in statistics. Before Saturday, they only had 3 sacks on the season. They got 2 against the Boilermakers. So just more game experience, guys, young guys like Frank Clark, who just looks fantastic. But he does need as much game experience as possible, especially when you get into the meat of the schedule against the Spartans and the Cornhuskers. So it's going to be obviously another chance to just play football.
Well, keys to victory, Andy, for Michigan on Saturday. A, when Michigan has the ball, what do you think we'll see this week? You're
going to see a more diverse offensive game plan. In a game like this, you shouldn't have to rely so heavily on Denard. So I'd like to see him spread the ball a little bit, get some more opportunities to pass it around, and hopefully see the running game find a little bit of a rhythm as well.
And on defense, other than shutting down Schillhouse, which would seem to be the only thing you need to do right now to just shut down this offense, what else do you think Michigan needs to really do to completely clamp down this Illini attack?
I think it's going to be a lot of some similar things that they did this week. A lot of flat responsibility from the cornerbacks and the linebackers, and just overall discipline. If they play their keys, it should be not so difficult.
I know it's early in the season. Michigan's 3-2, but that game Saturday was such a surprise for Michigan against Purdue. Again, even though it's early, that might be a game that has turned the corner for this team.
Yeah, I mean, so many people were not only picking Purdue to be a dark horse in the Big Ten, but to beat Michigan. I think that to see what they did in that game, that they weren't expected to blow out a team like that and to win 44-13, that's got to be a pretty big confidence booster. And that team was averaging 51 points a game at home, and Michigan holds them to 13. So, I think just their performance combined with just the general malaise in the Big Ten right now, I think they have to be confident in themselves moving into these last 7 games. Absolutely.
Well, of course, Saturday will be hopefully another big win for the Wolverines. You should get a lot of the young guys on both sides of the ball. Hopefully, some action, because we need a lot of bodies for the rest of the way. So it should be a fun homecoming.
Doesn't it seem like forever since they've had a home game? It's going to be good to be back in the big house.
A big 2 weeks at the big house. Guest on the show today has been Andy Reid from the Wolverine. And Andy, as always, we appreciate having you on the show and look forward to getting you back on a little later this season.
Yeah, I had fun. Thanks for having me.
As always, great to have Andy Reid from the Wolverine on as our guest on Michigan Game Day. Coming up next, Wolverine Quick Hits as we wrap it up for another week here on the Michigan Man Podcast on GBMW Go Blue, Michigan Wolverine. On Wolverine Quick Hits this week, let's check the injuries first. Coach Hoke said Denard's wrist is fine, and other than the usual bumps and bruises this time of the year, the team is in good shape for Saturday. Here are some quick facts about this week's game. Michigan leads the series with 68 wins against 23 losses and 2 ties. Last year, the Wolverines won down in Champaign 31-14 on November 12th. Tim Beckman is in his first year as the head man at Illinois, replacing Ron Zook. He has an overall record of 21-16 as a head coach, most of that at Toledo. The Illini run a pro-style offense and a multiple-set defense. Last year, Illinois was 7-6 overall and ended the season with a 20-14 victory over UCLA in the Kraft Fight Hunger Bowl. They returned 17 starters, 7 on offense, 8 on defense, and 2 special teams players. Coming into this week's game, they are 2-4. Don't forget to become a member here at GBMW. Visit www.gbmwolverine.com and sign up for membership today. Benefits include email reminders when a story is published or a mailbag question is answered. You also need to become a member for full participation on our always interesting message board. As a member here on GBMW, you can also take part in our popular Monday Night Live chat with E-Rock Wolverine, Coach BT, Maze Man, Doc for Blue, Whirls Wolverine, and our hockey guru, Yostmeister. The Monday Night Live chat takes place at 8 p.m. Eastern Time, so become a member and check it out. Join GBMW today and get your daily fix of Maize and Blue news and conversation. Then each Wednesday you can check out the Michigan Man Podcast. The show is now available as an Android app, which can be purchased from the Android App Store at Amazon.com. If you're an Apple person, you'll find our app in the Lipson toolbox at the iTunes App Store. If you listen to the show on your Apple device, please take a minute to give us a review. It really does help a lot. Our listener lines are open 24/7 for your comments. If you'd like to have your Maize and Blue opinion heard, give us a call at 313-263-4842. That's 313-263-4842. Then you can leave an audio with your thoughts on this football season, the upcoming basketball season, hockey, recruiting, anything that's on your mind. Just give us your name, where you're calling from, and then take off. If you'd rather send us an email, our address is themichiganmanpodcast@yahoo.com. I'll have both the phone number and the email address listed on my show notes. I welcome your thoughts on anything Maize and Blue, so give us a call or drop us an email. Thanks again to our guest today, Illinois play-by-play voice Brian Barnhart from the Illini Sports Network, and Andy Reid from the Wolverine. Don't forget kickoff for this weekend's homecoming game is at 3:30 p.m. and will be broadcast on ABC. It's been 4 long years since the Wolverines have tasted victory against bitter rival Michigan State. Next Saturday, the Spartans will pay a visit to the Big House in hopes of stretching that streak to 5 in a row. But of course, Michigan will have other ideas. So don't miss next Wednesday's show as we preview the marquee home game of 2012 against Coach Mark D'Antonio and his Spartans. Whether you're at this week's game, watching on TV, or listening on the radio, enjoy the matchup with Illinois and all of the festivities that go along with homecoming weekend. Until next week, I'm your host, Mike Fitzpatrick. Take care, think victory, and as always, go blue. Thanks for listening to the Michigan Man podcast on GBMW Go Blue Michigan Wolverine. You can find us on the web at www.gbmwolverine.com. That's www.gbmwolverine.com. For audio posts or other fan feedback, please call our listener line at 313-263-4842. That's 313-263-4842. Email fan feedback to the Michigan Man Podcast at yahoo.com. That's the Michigan Man Podcast at yahoo.com. The Michigan Man Podcast on GBMW Go Blue Michigan Wolverine is produced at the studios of Robin Lynn Productions, Allen Park, Michigan. The Michigan Man Podcast is not affiliated with the University of Michigan. Go Blue!